See you. I want to remind everybody that we are recording class today, just so that you can act accordingly. We don't really have a capture question, so to speak, as far as like writing something down, but we're going to practice. I want to remind Logan and everybody else at this point that we should not have our phones out. No phones, no AirPods, no earbuds at this point. If you can please make sure those are put away. And also make sure that they are put away for the remainder of the class. I'd appreciate it. Is it cold in here? Yeah. Sorry. You picked up your handout on the way in. Please make sure that when you do that, you're always putting it right in your table of contents. That handout is going to get us seeing like what the inside of our Earth is doing. We're going to start to get past the layers and start to look at the inside. But for now, what I want to do is I want to give you time with your pair share partners to look at this. Think about those principles of geology that we learned about yesterday, that cross-cutting concept, inclusions, or original horizontality. I want you to think about those and think about what could have happened here. What's the story behind what we see here as far as this section of the Earth? So I'm going to shut my mouth, which is hard for me to do, and I'm going to give you a minute to go ahead and fill in your table of contents, and then talk with your pair share partner about what do we think the steps are that might have happened to this part of the land. I'll take attendance. Oh shoot, honey, what happened? Okay, we'll talk later. We lost Jonathan. What are we signing on? Well? Yeah. Yeah. Let me see William. Okay. All right, sweeties, let's go ahead and talk about this. Now, the law of superposition, not superstition, the law of superposition states what? What's the law of superposition? Superposition. Think about the word position, right? And we're superimposing things on it. So, law of superposition. Yeah?
If layers of rock are in distance, then the oldest rocks are on the bottom, and the youngest rocks.
Oldest are on the bottom. So in this case, if the oldest rocks are on the bottom, what letter would be the oldest letter here? What's the first thing? Asa says B. How many of you agree with Asa? Yeah. So B would have been the first thing to lay down. And then, what else? E would have been on top. I'm going to write this down. You don't have to write this down. We're just practicing. So we could say that B was the first thing to happen, right? There's land that was kind of like probably underneath an ocean. Usually that's how rocks are created. That's how sediment layers of the earth are happening, where you've got like land underneath the ocean as things die and they settle down to the bottom. So we've got B, and then on top of that we had layer E lay down. And then on top of that, probably H. And then at this point, let's go ahead and think about the principle of original horizontality. What does that state? Asa again for the win. What's that principle state?
Sedimentary rocks form
horizontal layers. But wait, these layers aren't horizontal. What are happening with these layers? They're all curvy. So then let's imagine what happened after layer H. What could have possibly happened? What happened to the land? Nothing?
It shifted.
It shifted. It shifted. So then we have like a land shift, right? Probably over here we have some sort of a land shift. Something happened with the land to make that land shift. We probably had, honestly, probably compression on the land. We probably had, there's like a force over here and a force over there, and there was something that was like squeezing this land together so that it was starting to shape like that. So we had some sort of a land shift. Then what's it look like might have happened? G, what does G represent? What do you think G represents? It's not actually cross-cutting. This represents weathering and erosion. So look at all of the land that's gone. If we have these layers like E should be extending way out. And maybe it went like this, right? Maybe E kind of did this kind of thing. And maybe there's like a whole bunch of other land that should have been over here. And H, maybe H was like this or something like that. And maybe on top of H there was even another layer or something like that. But all of it's gone. So we had millions of years of erosion and weathering. And that brought all that land down to this area right here. So it's like if you're reading a really great book and all of a sudden you get to this certain section and like 30 pages are ripped out, right? And that's 30 million years gone. And we're like, what happened? Think about all the cool crap that could have been going on the land that we'll never know about because it's gone forever through weathering and erosion. And we're just left to guess what might have been there. So G is weathering and erosion. Okay, so we've got G, which is weathering and erosion happened. Who knows how many millions of years that might have been. Then what happened?
D.
Yeah, there was more deposition. There was more things being deposited on top of it. So it looks like we have D. Then what might have happened? F. Then what might have happened?
C.
Maybe C. C is that principle of what? What do we call that principle? Cross-cutting relationships. Why? Because it's cutting across all of these layers. We know C had to have happened after F because C also cuts right through F. All right. But then I'm saying there's probably something that happened before C. Think about the principles of horizontality. That says that layers should be horizontal. Are these layers horizontal? No, they're tilted. So we had another land shift. There was some sort of land shift that happened, and then this thing cut across, and then C happened. And then what might have happened? A probably happened. Or maybe A came before C. We don't know. But there's a whole story here to be told in this particular area. The land tells you everything if you know how to look at it. If you take a grain of sand and you look at a grain of sand, and if under a microscope that grain of sand is nice and round and clear, that tells us that that grain of sand was weathered in a water environment. It was tumbled like rocks. Does anybody have a tumbler machine, or do you know what I'm talking about when I say nice? Yeah, those nice smooth rocks that are tumbled. If you look at a grain of sand under a microscope and it's rounded but it's scratched, if it's like all scratched in it and it's not nice and smooth and shiny, that means that that grain of sand was from a desert environment and it was being blown and hit against other rocks in a desert environment and getting all like scratched up. You can learn so much about what happened in the world if you're just able to like look and listen to the cool clues that are left behind. And I'm going to stop talking about that because I think geology is really cool and not everybody like has that same opinion. So just wanted to get you thinking about all of the different stuff that's going on the earth. This whole unit is going to be about us figuring out why the land moves, why we have shifts, why we have big geologic inclusions that come, or intrusions that come through. And today we're going to start by looking at, it's because of the heat in the center of our planet that drives that. So we're going to start looking at that today. But first, let me go ahead and hand you back your density lab because I want to talk about grades, okay? And I want to show you how you can maybe bump your grade up. All right, I want to read to you what an A looks like for a density lab. There were some people that were not writing about density, you were writing about mass. You said the mass of this, the mass of that. Remember the task at hand was it was a density lab. And so you write about density. Your task in this density lab was to see whether you, the diver, could get to the bottom of the lakes or not. So I'm going to show you what an A looks like. I gave you sentence starters. Please use them, okay? The sentence starter in this case, I found that. That's kind of like our claim, right? We're going to look claim, evidence, and reasoning. So our claim, I found that Lake was the most dense and Lake B was the least dense, which means Lake C was in the middle. The data to support this. So now we're looking at our data, right? This is our evidence to back up our claim. The data to support this is that Lake A had a density of blah, blah, blah. Lake C had a density of blah, blah, blah. And Lake B had a density of blah, blah, blah. So that's our data. Okay? Please make sure that you're always putting the proper, what is that called? Unit label attached. In conclusion, this is us wrapping it up. In conclusion, the diver will not be able to get to the bottom of any of the 3 lakes because the diver is less dense at a density of 0.90 grams per milliliters. And that means that they will float in all the lakes. That is an A. Do you get me? So you need to rewrite yours if you want. If you don't want to rewrite yours, by all means, you don't have to rewrite it. But what we're going to do is we're going to do some individual work today on the center of the Earth and the heat within our Earth. And then you have an opportunity to go ahead and wrap this up if you want to work on this. I would just go ahead and use the back because some of us squished everything in this little tiny area. Some of us, you were chicken scratching everything. Some of you had arrows pointing to the data table. And I'm like, no, no, no. That doesn't smell like an A. No, no, no. We want to make sure that we are using high school level now write-ups, okay? So I'm going to give you an opportunity to redo. I'm just going to hand these back, and you are going to, can you hand that back to Peyton, please? Braden, could you hand that back and over to Braden? Or Becca?
Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. Kylie, can you hand that back to Kylie? Lauren, could you hand that all the way back to Lauren? And can you hand that back to Alex? And can you hand back that to Ethan? And can you give that to Zai? And there you go, Kendall. And, oh, there you go, Jose. Could you hand that back, please, to Jose? And Jay's not here. That makes me so sad. Hassan. Billy, Billy, Billy. Could you hand that back and over to Billy? And William's not here. Could you hand that back to Logan, please? And there you go, Ramal. And William is not here. No, William is here. My other William. Could you hand that back to William behind you? And Cooper. Could you hand that back to Cooper? All right. If you did not get one back for me, guess what that means? I don't have one. Did I give you yours back? Yeah, I gave yours back. But I want to write you a pass so that you can come in during Liberty Time and you can do that lab. I still have our chemicals back there to work with. I would love to give you a pass today. So when we have work today in class, please come up and say, Ms. McGrain, can I have a pass to Liberty Time? And then I will sit down with you and we can go through that lab. Or if you just want to come in and do a rewrite with me, I would help you with that. Sound good? Great, but we're not going to do that right now. I know some of us want to do that right now, but let's just hold off on that. Right now, let's go ahead and go to our TOC, Table of Contents. And let's put together our new sheet of paper that we have for our Table of Contents, please. Something that you picked up on the way in. All right. I'm going to go ahead and write down, we had something on the 21, that was a video. Then we had something on 11/22. This was our lab, and this was the density lab. So for those of you that have not been keeping up with our TOC, this will help you out. I believe this was page 3 and 4. This was 5 and 6. This, oh, I'm sorry. This then was on the 28th, and the 28th we had another lab, and that lab was on how old is the Earth, layers. How old, I'll just say our layers. I'll just say our Earth layers, layers. And then on the 29th, I believe that was page 11, and we had relative dating. This was yesterday. It's nice about relative. This is my brain. We had relative dating. That was where you watched that little video of that man, and he was explaining all those different principles of geology. And then we took some notes, which I know we have to wrap up. Do we have to wrap up those notes? No? I think we did it. Didn't we do, the last thing we did was that, that graph?
Yeah. This is the summary, the like last one.
Yeah, the summary. I'm not worried about the summary. And then that was also on the 29th. So then today, which is the 30th, I cannot believe that it is the last day. Okay, that was 11, 12, this was 13. I can't believe this is the last day of November. We have something called, what is the source of heat in Earth's interior? So I'm just going to write source of heat. I'll just write source of Earth's heat. And that would be 13, 14, so that would be on page, I believe, 15. And now that my pen is working, hopefully this will stay in place, and next time we come back, it'll right be there, and all we have to do is add to it. Ah. I'm gonna get your lab right up today, right? Yes, I am. Thank you, Asa. You'll have time at the end of class to go ahead and work on that for sure, and you can call me over if you want. Asa or anybody else. Are you still in Science Olympiad? I sent you a note. I sent you an email. Look at your email. Don't. Your teeth at me. All right, my darlings, let's go ahead and look at what we are doing as far as source of heat in Earth's interior. Dun, dun, dun. So we've talked about the layers. We kind of started talking about how the land shifts, which changes, if the land is in horizontal layers, if it's kind of wavy like this, those big intrusions that come through. That is all because of what's happening inside of the Earth. If you think about a volcano, you know Earth must be hot inside. The heat inside Earth moves continents, it can build mountains, and it can cause earthquakes. But where does all this heat inside Earth come from? So what you're going to do is you are going to read these sections and then answer the questions on the back. That's your task for today. Once you are done with that, you can go back and work on that video to learn about those principles of geology. You can work on your lab write-up if you want to do that. Or you can also, that's your one, and then I'm going to put it over there because I love you so much, I don't want you to jeopardize your success. Or if you're done with all of it, I'll take you in the back and we can go ahead and look at those lake samples if anybody was not here for the lab. Who was not here for the original lab? You weren't here? Ebony, were you here for the original lab? On the lake? I don't think you were. So if you want, I can work with you two back there if you have time also. I can do that with you. So that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be working at your own pace, getting things done. Okay, nothing. Sorry, I apologize. So get to it. And for you at home, all of this stuff is linked on Canvas if you need it, and I will see you tomorrow. Here's Nikayla. Say hi.